Thank you for sharing the moments with us. It's our honor to have the presence of the distinguished guests from AUN-QA. We would like to warmly introduce all the assessors from AUN, Professor Dr. Fawza Abdul Ghaffar, Professor Dr. Madeline Tedosia Suarez,
Good morning.
Assistant Professor Dr. Onlakcha Sivarak,
Good morning.
Dr. Yeti Komolasari Dewi,
Morning.
Professor Dr. Arnel Onisimo Suowi,
Morning, everyone.
Associate Professor Dr. Amphawan Chunsiriwong,
Morning. สวัสดีค่ะ
Professor Dato Dr. Riza Atik Abdullah bin Oke Hamad,
Good morning everybody.
and Assistant Professor Dr. Roberto Bruno Gozzoli,
Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
and also Mr. We are delighted to have you here with us today. From Ho Chi Minh City University of Education, we may give the warmest welcome to the leaders of our university, Mr. Nguyen Ngoc Trung, Vice President, Dr. Bùi Trần Quỳnh Ngọc, Vice President, and Dr. Cao Anh Tuấn, Vice President. It's also our pleasure to welcome the representatives of all the other departments, offices, and affiliated units from Ho Chi Minh City University of Education. Ladies and gentlemen, during the past few days, we've learned such useful information from all the assessors about the 4 training programs, and we have received very invaluable feedback from all of you. So today, our assessors from the 4 programs are going to present the preliminary findings of the results of the 4 assessed programs. So let us start with the first program. Let me introduce Professor Dr. Fawza Abdul Ghaffar and Professor Dr. Madeline Teodosia Suarez.
Fawza, I think you're muted.
So sorry. Thank you, Madam Chair, Ms. Nguyen. Good morning, everybody. I shall start this morning's presentation with the findings from the Bachelor of French Language from the Faculty of Languages. But before I start, I would like to introduce my fellow assessor. That is Professor Dr. Madeline Teodosia Suarez from the Philippines. As the first presenter, I'm given the task of putting you into the context of the assessment and the findings that we are presenting later. That is to give you a very brief picture or introductory remarks on
Recording in progress.
On the AUN-QA framework, mainly the criteria and the rating system. Next. Okay, this diagram summarizes the 11 criteria of the AUN-QA framework. The 11 criteria actually starts with 5 program criteria, with the expected learning outcome as criteria number 1. And the expected learning outcome actually is the heart or the pulse of the outcome-based education approach. Based on the expected learning outcomes, the program shall design their program structure and content. And this is criteria number 3. And to deliver the content of the curriculum, they will have to apply or implement various teaching and learning approaches, and then assess the students using various assessment methods. All the information on this, the structure and content, the learning approach, and the student assessment methods and timetable and so on are being detailed in a document which we refer to as the program specification. And part of the program specification are also specification of the courses, which give the details of the teaching and learning approach, the content and student assessment at the course level. So to run the program based on the curriculum design and develop, the program would need resources, support resources. And the resources comprises of academic staff, that is criteria number 6, support staff, criteria number 7, student and student support system or facilities, that is criteria number 8, and infrastructure, criteria number 9. So all these and also quality enhancement, criteria number 10. So these 5 criteria actually shall be categorized as the resource criteria. Quality enhancement or criteria number 10 actually applies also to all other criteria, because all the other criteria continuously have to be quality enhanced. As a result of the implementation of the content or the curriculum, at the end of the study period, the program shall produce their output. And this output are in the forms of the graduates. And the output is criteria number 11. Okay. In carrying out the planning, the delivery, and the assessment of the program has to take into consideration the stakeholders' need, which is also labeled as criteria number 1. So in designing the learning outcome, for example, in deciding the structure and content of the curriculum, stakeholders' inputs are very important to enlighten the program owners on their needs, because they finally shall be the users of the output or the graduates. And therefore, the stakeholders, the external and internal stakeholders, are very important component of the implementation of the program. At the end of the study period, the achievement of the program partly is being measured by the satisfaction of the stakeholders, namely the students, the alumni, and also in particular the employers. The process of quality enhancement and quality assurance actually forms the other important component besides the stakeholders' needs. And this is done by using or applying several quality assurance systems, or putting in a system, and also carrying out benchmarking. And when we say benchmarking, it's benchmarking not only of the curriculum, but benchmarking of all the relevant criteria. Benchmarking of the curriculum, the exam, the courses, benchmarking of our teaching methods, benchmarking of our assessment methods, benchmarking of the academic staff, support staff of our facilities, and finally, benchmarking of our output or the graduates. So all these 11 criteria forms the basis for the assessment of program for the ASEAN University Network QA system. Next. Now, to put simply, all these 11 criteria for the purpose of our assessment and the purpose of our report presentation is categorized into three categories. Can you
Recording
press?
stopped.
Dr. Yami, can you press go on? And yes, number 1 to 5 are the program criteria related to the program.
Recording in progress.
Number 6 to 10, we categorize it as resources. And number 11, the result. The presentation today shall give a summary of our findings based on the three pillars or three category: program, resources, and result. Okay, next we move on to the rating scale, or how we assess ourselves in your case, and how we assess our your program and come up with our findings. This is based on a rating scale of 1 to 6, and for each of the scale there is a description. It's like a rubrics. So when we say 1, what do we mean? There are three things that we look for. The one in red is whether the QA practice is implemented or not. Number 2, the one in blue, whether there are any plans, whether there are any documents or evidences or results available as a result of the implementation. And number 3, whether there are important improvement or urgent improvement to be made. So when we decide on the rating that we give for each of the criteria, these are the three important things that we look for and base our rating on. So you can see 1 to 3, it is put there in red. That means that it is not so satisfactory. So we don't want, or programs usually don't want to get 1, 2, 3, and it would bear an implication on the program if you have 1 or 2 or 3. You can have maybe 1 or 2 sub-criteria, but if you have more than one, then your whole assessment or overall result would be implicated. Next. So the next rating scale is 4, 5, 6, and 7. 4 and 5, the is an indication of adequate. 4, adequate as expected. That means you have in place what the requirements need, what the requirements specify. The QA practice is there, is adequate. Evidence are there to support that the practices are being implemented, and the performance of the practice shows some consistent result as expected. A step higher is 5, better than adequate. The QA practice fulfill the criterion better than adequate. That means evidences that support this practice can be seen to be effectively implemented. And the implementation of the practices shows results or performance which shows good result and positive improvement trend. And of course, 6 and 7 are better ratings. That is number 6, this example of best practices. For number 6 is example of best practices may be within your national region, your country, or more perhaps better within the bigger region. For example, in our case, the ASEAN region. Your practice can be referred to other universities or other programs as examples of good practices within our region. And number 7 is excellent, that is world-class example. That means you can be referred to the world, the university of the world, not you. Some of your practices can be referred as best practices because it stands out. It stands out on the global map. So these are the 7 rating scales which we shall assign, in our assessment to each of the criteria for your program. And we decide then the overall rating for the program. Next. Now I move on to Bachelor of French Language in terms of the strengths for the program criteria, which, if you remember well, consists of the 5 criteria: ELOs, program specification, program structure and content, teaching and learning approach, and student assessment. Yesterday, during our clarification session, we have mentioned to you longer list of findings. Today is just a summary of which we think would be the pertinent findings, the pertinent strength in relation to the program criteria, of which includes 1, the program has formulated 15 program learning outcomes, that is the PLOs, which are aligned to the 4 program objectives, which are your POs, and also aligned to the vision and mission of the university. There is a mapping or a matrix of the PLOs to the POs. The PLOs of the 15, we can identify that they are both generic in nature. That means they would contribute to the general knowledge, general skills, and even the attitude or behavior, and some are subject specific in nature, in particular in relation to the knowledge and the skills. The program structure and content are constructively aligned to the PLOs. This is at the program level, where we see that your courses, where you categorize them into several types of courses, the general courses, the fundamental courses, the specialization courses, and the professional courses, they are aligned to the PLOs. The courses are well sequenced and integrated in nature. We can see the very fine flow between one year to another year in terms of the types of courses. There is both a course PLO matrix, where you align your courses to the PLOs. In fact, it's a very detailed matrix where you align it to the sub-PLOs. There is also a curriculum map which shows the flow of the courses from semester 1, year 1 to semester 8, year 4. It's very clearly shown. Program and course information are published and communicated through the program specification. There is a program specification mainly in the form of a student handbook, and the course specification, which we refer as course syllabi, and these 2 documents are communicated to students and also to a certain extent to other stakeholders in print and digitally. The educational philosophy at the university is well translated and stated and translated, communicated, as well as embedded in the teaching and learning practices. So the students are aware that there is such a thing as educational philosophy. They know what it is, what they mean, and the implication or how it's being reflected in their courses, in their teaching and learning, and also to a certain extent in the assessment that they do. There are a diversity of teaching and learning as well as assessment methods. And constructive alignment are evidence between the methods and the program learning outcome. As I mentioned earlier, constructive alignment is well evidenced at the program level in terms of the course and the PLOs, and then the assessment methods and teaching methods to the PLOs. And because the teaching methods and the assessment methods are to meet the 15 PLOs, they have to be a variety of teaching methods and assessment methods. The teaching and learning methods are student-centered. We see that there are many meanings of student-centered, one of which is we see that there are methods which help students learn, which is not didactic in nature, which involves student in the learning process. Student become the main person and the teacher facilitate. So we see there are, for example, problem-based learning methods, project-based learning methods, fieldworks, and presentation, and so on. And the assessment techniques are both formative, that is carried out throughout the learning period, and also summative in nature. Information on assessment, including the weightage, the methods, the schedule, and so on, are being documented and communicated to students. And assessment feedbacks of the formative assessment results are given to the students back in a timely manner, as soon as immediately after the assessment to a period of up to 2 weeks after the assessment. Next. However, there are some areas for improvement for the program criteria. One areas for improvement, we actually group them as OBE compliance, is in relation to the principles, the practice of the OBE approach. We feel that there are a lot of improvement can be made to be more OBE compliance. For example, one, by formulating program educational objective. This is something which is not the same as your program objective. Your program objective is a requirement of MOET and also is in alignment to the competency-based education approach. But for outcome-based education approach, besides the PLOs, above the PLOs, there are PEOs, Program Educational Objectives, which meant something different and is stated in a particular way and must be measured at particular intervals. And the PEOs must be in alignment with the PLOs. Number two, it is not so obviously seen in the present PLOs that your PLOs can be categorized according to learning taxonomy. For example, the most common, the use of Bloom's taxonomy, where your learning outcome actually must comprise of learning outcomes relating to knowledge or cognitive. Number two, skills or psychomotor. And number three, affective or the heart. Yeah, is the mind, the limbs, the hands and legs, and the heart. Okay, so you can improve to make the learning domains more obvious. Then improve statement of outcomes, both at the program level and also at the course level. A lot can be done to improve both in terms of format and in terms of writing it, stating it. For example, there are the 3M principle which you can follow. Your outcome must be meaningful. Your outcome must be manageable. It cannot be too ambitious. We observe that some of your PLOs are not measurable within the time period. That means at the end of the program, you cannot measure it. One or two of your PLOs can only be measured after the students are at work. So this means that these PLOs are more appropriate to be PEOs. Okay, and perhaps at the course level, you can use the SMART principle. Your outcome must be specific. You must know what you want to measure or what you want the student to achieve. It must be measurable. It must be achievable within the time period, either one semester or one during 4 years. It must be relevant. It must be in the context of your discipline, relevant, and it must be timely. Okay. And in terms of the relationship between the three, the CLO, the PLO, and the PEOs. You can see that it's like a hierarchy, and for each of them, there is a particular time where you can measure the achievement of each of these. The course learning outcome after every semester, the program learning outcome at the end of the program, and the PEOs about 3 to 4 years after the student enters the job market. Next. Next, areas for improvement. This is relating to the curriculum content especially, and we just highlight several things. Number one, internship. We feel that internship is very important in this nature of course of such a nature, and is also being voiced by the students that they need more real world, more real life exposure. And we can only think that internship is one of the more popular, more appropriate course that would give the students this. But at the moment, your internship is only for a short period, very light in terms of credit. So with a view of improvement to help the students, you can relook at your course on internship in terms of its design, its implementation, and also its assessment. Number two, elective courses. At the moment, we feel that your elective courses are too enclosed. That means too focused. You don't give the students flexibility to choose, and you don't give the student a broad exposure. So it would prepare them for the market, because nowadays the translation and interpretation job is not only related to one type of industry, but many other industries. Thus, it would be helpful if the students are being exposed to some basic scenarios, principles of that industry. And finally, soft skills. Please relook at the soft skills that you're giving the students. There are important soft skills. Employers have acknowledged that their students have some of the important soft skills, but please look at the changing world, a higher education scenario, the 21st century soft skills, for example, the type of employment that your students would go into, which require different soft skills. For example, some of the things mentioned by the employers are adaptability, emotional equation, time and people management. And in terms of the assessment, your assessment methods are variety, diversity, and all that. And you use a lot of rubrics due to the nature of your assessment methods. But we would like to see more improvement in the use of rubrics from the design stage to the use and to the improvement. Your rubrics must be validated, must be calibrated, because it's an instrument, and this shall ensure validity, reliability, and fairness like the other assessment methods. And your rubrics, therefore, your rubrics must be diversified in nature and well communicated to the student. So holistically, we would recommend you at your major curriculum review, you review the whole program holistically so that you can take action to produce future graduates which are relevant to the changing world of work, which is the VUCA world of work, which is volatile, which is uncertain, which is complex, which is ambiguous. And therefore, you have to produce future-proof graduates. I shall now pass on to my colleague.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fausa. So I am here to present the findings for the resources criteria, specifically academic staff quality, support staff quality, student quality and support, facilities and infrastructure, and quality enhancement. In particular, during this week, we saw that discovered that the students love their teachers. They describe their teachers as dedicated, professional, and possess a good attitude. We found this out during the interview. Next, we found out that in terms of support staff, that a hiring plan is being implemented in the recruitment of a qualified additional support staff. And in particular, you were looking for someone which also has a passion for work. So I think this helps contribute to the quality of the support staff. Next, we saw that there is an academic advisor scheme described in the SAR, and this was validated during the interview with the students. They said that they meet with their academic advisor twice a year, one in the beginning and one at the end of the year, and anytime in between are able to consult with their academic advisor related to enrollment, regarding their courses, regarding the difficulty in the courses they are taking. In particular, we also learned that the academic advisor is able to access the grades of the students so that they can properly monitor the performance of students during the year. Next, effective learning is supported by language laboratories, both from the equipment perspective and also from the software perspective. We saw the digital materials that are being used by the students to learn and to practice, and also the software that's being used by the teacher in the language laboratories to be able to monitor the performance of students and monitor the terminals at any point in time during the lessons. In particular, we also saw the flexible classrooms. It was actually demonstrated to us how they were being used. They were there to support the collaborative nature of some courses and also learning by doing activities during the visit. Next, based on the interview with the academic and support staff, there is a system in place for review and curriculum improvement. Regular surveys, including formal and informal consultations, are held with alumni and employers. We saw that you were in touch with your employers, and whether via a formal survey or informal meetings with them, are able to gather feedback regarding the improvement of the program. Student feedback is also regularly solicited via surveys. These are just some of the facilities that you showed us this week. For areas of improvement, we would like to encourage the department to ensure that all academic staff undergo two types of training. The first one, pedagogical training on online and high-flex learning. As we move towards a different kind of delivery of education services, it will be good that all our teachers are able to adjust whatever happens, like what happened to us now in the COVID pandemic. So this will further improve learning resilience both for the university and for the students. And also additional training on quality assurance to further improve the review, design, and evaluation of the program to help the academic staff and the entire department immerse themselves in the culture of quality assurance. Next, it is also recommended to have a strategic career preparation program for students because, as Dr. Fausa mentioned, it is a VUCA world. It is a widely changing and emerging situation in the workplace. It is good that we prepare students via a good career training program for them. In addition, based on student surveys and student interviews, the students would like to request for faster internet access because, as you know, there's a lot of digital materials they can really get from the internet, especially for the French language. Listening to podcasts in French, for example, will require internet access. Air conditioning and more study spaces, and we would like to stress two kinds of study spaces for them, one individual study spaces and one for collaborative learning. So we separate those who would like to study silently versus those who would like to study together and do their collaborative homework, for example. Then it is recommended that the DOF reading room be moved to a bigger space and a permanent librarian be hired to manage it. The students would like the resources. In fact, they want newer resources. So they want a bigger space to be able to do it. And of course, this means that you putting in a permanent professional librarian to actually handle the holdings of this library. It is also recommended that the system to collect, store, and analyze pass and dropout rates be improved to better provide a more accurate picture for the administrators of the department. For the last criterion, the strengths that we found are as follows: that the employers found both interns and graduates articulate, suitable, hardworking, responsible, excellent, and adaptable. We saw that the employers regularly get interns and graduates from the program, which we see as a strength because it shows a really strong relationship between the department and its employers. We saw, however, an emerging trend among the students that they're able to find employment whether directly or indirectly related to the program that they have studied. We see this as a strength because we see there's transfer of learning skills. Whether they learned it or not, you have given them the skill to learn new things by themselves, which we want to be strengthened later on, as mentioned by Dr. Fauza. Areas for improvement include the recommendation to possess soft skills, to be comfortable with technology, and to learn new software by themselves, as we see the VUCA world using more and more technology tools in the performance of their tasks, and for them to be more assertive. The employer said your graduates and students are good but also very shy. So maybe some assertiveness from the students will be helpful. And then we would like to also ask you to improve the graduate tracer study to include how long it took for the graduates to find their jobs, to better understand the employability rate. So again, this additional data will provide a more accurate picture for planning and quality assurance process for the administrators of the department. We would like to thank the department for its preparation and hard work during this entire week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Fauza Abdul Ghaffar and Professor Dr. Madeline Teodosia Suarez for your very informative presentation. Now, before we move on with the next presentation, I would like to say it's an honor for us to have with us today Mr. Dr. Nguyễn Thị Huyền and Dr. Nguyễn Huy Phúc, two local verifiers of AUN-QA. Now let us move on to the presentation for the next program, which is Bachelor of Chinese Language. I would like to introduce Associate Professor Dr. Onlatja Sivarak and Dr. Yeti Komolasari Dewi.
Good morning, President, Vice President, academic staffs and support staffs of the Ho Chi Minh City University of Education. I'm Onlatja Sivarak, and I will be presenting the preliminary findings of the Bachelor of Chinese Language on behalf of me and Professor Yeti. Let me share the screen. Okay, I'll start with, you can see my share screen, right? Okay,
Yes.
I'll start with okay, I could not see mine, but anyway, I'll start with the program criteria. And the strengths that we found, including the formulation of the program learning outcomes, we can see that you have the 4 main PLOs with the about 27 sub PLOs, including qualities, general, specialized, and professionals. These are separated into generic and specific, right? There has been considered vision and mission of the Ho Chi Minh City University of Education, Department of Chinese, and requirements specified in the higher education law, benchmarking information of universities in Vietnam and other countries such as China, and also stakeholders' needs. The constructive alignment of the PLOs and the program content is shown through the curriculum mapping. We also find that the program and course specifications are comprehensive and updated every 2 years, and also communicated. Based on the interview, we found that the word of mouth through social media, such as TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram, are preferred communication channels. So we think that these could be the user-generated content, but I think it's good for the programs to know that these are preferred channels, so you can communicate to your potential students or students in this channel. Next, we see that several teaching and learning activities and assessment methods. For example, we see you have company site visit, professional experience sharing sessions by CEOs, or you also provide internship in Taiwan. Students say that they enjoy the Kahoot activities in class, right? So these are incorporated to engage students and ensure the course learning outcomes. Also, rubrics and marking schemes, such as internship, communication, and thesis, the rubrics were used for these types of assessment and to ensure validity, reliability, and fairness of the student assessment. Appeal procedure is also in place for students if they are not satisfied with their grades. So students during the interview can clearly tell that if they are not satisfied with their grade, they can just go directly to the staff and then ask for the copy of the exams, and then they can review them and they can appeal if they found any imprecise or errors. Also, the university graduation requirement of having the second language is appreciated by alumni and employers. So one of the reasons they hired graduates from BCL is their English speaking ability. I'll move on to some of the areas for improvement under the program criteria. First of all is the curriculum enhancement. So the program could consider enhancing the program by first drawing out a uniqueness of the program. Something that show your difference in other, that you are better than other Chinese language program. I can see that many people in the interview share that you also trying to apply the Chinese language as a translator in different contexts. So that could also be a draw out in your program. Incorporating future trends, advanced technology, new normal in Chinese language into the program. Also allowing flexibility for students to choose, just similar to what the previous program presented. So students should be able to choose courses, minors, majors based on their specialization or future career in the form of tracks or concentration. So if they want to continue their study, they may be able to focus on certain modules that support their continuing education, like doing more research. Or if they want to be an entrepreneur, they want to focus on import-export, law, or if they want to become a freelance translator and interpreter. Last but not least, another thing that you could do with the program is to provide more diversity and culture related course. So from the interview, students want to learn from female director experience in the professional talk. Employers also want to have graduates who can work well with a Chinese boss. Those would be some of the examples. So for the next areas for improvement is to consider developing the learning outcomes for each extracurricular activity assigned to the program learning outcomes to ensure the achievement. Because you assign these extracurricular activities to the program's learning outcomes. So I think it will be clearer to students if they take these extracurricular activities, what will be achieved and how is it support the achievement of the learning outcomes. Next is to consider assessment to ensure achievement of the program learning outcomes. Also, we would like to see that the program analyze all of the courses assessment and other methods of assessment to see whether which programs learning outcome are achieved and by how much, whether the target has set for how many % of those students will achieve different types of learning outcomes. Next is based on the interview, we think that you may want to consider arranging an earlier internship to provide students with the real world experiences. So they want to see what is expected of them in order to support their learning in the program. So they know what they want to focus on, what they want to achieve in order to work in the future. Next is the international recognition of the degree certificate. If the program would like to consider having those so that it will support students' employment abroad. Some of the, I think, comments that we learned from the interview, they say that students can graduate, but if they want to work, for example, in Thailand, they have to take another certificate to be able to translate or interpret in Chinese. In the resources criteria, we found that your strengths include the recruitment and selection criteria of the academic and support staff are established and communicated through the university website. The performance evaluation, training, and rewards are implemented to support the education, research, and service for both academic and support staff. We also see that student intake policy, selection methods, and admission criteria are defined and communicated. The university also provides several supports and upgrades for the program's education and research, such as library, classrooms, registration and grading system, and also QA system. We also see green and clean campus that is shown in the department facilities and the university facilities, as well as the activities of the students, such as trees and flowers, decoration, green on Sunday, and green summer activity. Next is the multimedia room that is equipped with a large interactive screen, many laptops that are provided for students using the room, and middleware software that is also available to support teaching and learning in Chinese languages. For area for improvement, first, we see that we think that you may want to consider developing academic and support staff planning for the department and for the programs to support future direction of the program. So we think that if you incorporate both full-time and part-time numbers and area of specialization, so that you can plan better what you need in order to support your future direction. Next is to consider calculating academic staff workload that incorporates teaching, research services, and also other responsibilities such as academic advisor and thesis advisor responsibilities. Next is to consider incorporating more international schemes to support students' experiences that align with the program future plan to become a well-known Bachelor of Chinese Language in ASEAN. These including providing more inbounds, outbounds to create international environment, more opportunities for students to go for study trips or internships abroad. Next is to consider collaboration with potential networks and partners to further enhance research activities by academic staff and students. And to consider offering the first period of class in a later time, maybe after 8 or on the regular business hours. Based on the interview, students and academic staff think that the 6:30 class time is a bit too early for them. And also to consider providing more trainings for staff and students to lessen technology challenges during the digital transformation, and also to move forward with the university plan. Some of the trainings could be on a new system or UIS, how to digitally use a notification system, electronic grade reports by academic staff, and also providing today's teaching skills for part-time academic staff. The last area for improvement in this category is to improve support for people with special needs, such as accessible toilets and doors free of obstructions. In the last part, which is the result criterion, we found that the strengths of the programs include the pass rates and dropout rates are established and monitored. So from 2016 to 2020, it's ranging between 77.5 to 95.7. And these are based on the total number of students in that year. Also, average time to graduate is between around 4 years, and it is in the same range as your benchmarking programs, which are English language and Japanese language programs. Employability of graduate is also established, and it is between 92.5 and 100%. Again, you also benchmark it with English language and Japanese language, which are very much the same. We also learned from the interview that many students of the BCL programs were employed prior to the graduation. Additional from that, we see that the research projects by students are established and satisfaction also established for quality of the study program. Some area for improvement here is that first, the program may want to consider monitoring and benchmarking pass rate, dropout rate, and average time to graduate by admission batch or admission types like D1, D4, or based on options students choose, group 1, group 2. We think that this will help the program to acquire insights for improvement. So you could see whether students choose more or less of the research group, and to be able to support them in the directions of the program. Next is consider using more research outputs to promote students' interest in doing research and to improve teaching and learning quality. Last is to consider further analysis on the current satisfaction survey results, especially the student survey satisfaction for improvement. For example, we can see that based on your report, student satisfaction for workload is a bit low. If the program would analyze for reasons why, so that you can support and get higher satisfaction scores here. So these are what we are findings for the Bachelor of Chinese Language. We also appreciate the stars you wrote or the documents you're trying to give us and all the questions you try to help us understand your program better. And this is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Associate Professor Dr. Onlatcha Sivarak and Dr. Yeti Kumulatsari Dewi, for your very insightful comments about the program. Thank you very much. Let us move on to the next program, which is Bachelor of Information Technology. Let me introduce Professor Dr. Arnel Onetsimo Oui and Associate Professor Dr. Amphawan Chunsi Riwang.
Good morning, everyone. Chao Bui Sang, President, Professor Dr. Yun Van Son, all the dignitaries, the vice presidents, and even the deans of the different schools. Good morning. Ampawan, may I share my screen?
Oh, Lily, okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. So this morning, we are privileged to share with you our initial preliminary findings for what we have as the program for Bachelor of Information Technology. Together with me in this team is my partner, Associate Professor Dr. Amphawan Jilsiriwong from Bangkok, Thailand. And I am Professor Dr. Arnel Uy from Manila, Philippines. I'd like to begin by sharing with you some of the things that we confirmed and something that we have been able to discuss with the different stakeholders, including the department, the faculty, and also the employers and alumni. I'd like to begin by sharing with you the entire program of IT rests on the development and trends that actually surrounds the discipline. So I'd like to share, first and foremost, some of the things that we have discovered and confirmed. One, we understand that information technology is upon us today, and we see that even in this Zoom meeting. It's fast changing. The last 2 years have shown us that the impact of Industry 4.0 and technology on our lives, and also perhaps on our way of learning, has drastically changed. In the next 2 years, that will also be something that a lot of people are anticipating to also change or to also be impacted. Likewise, when you take a look at information technology as a discipline, it's very broad in scope. It includes people from programmer, it includes developer of websites, it includes data engineering, and
Arnel,
Sorry,
you're on
Dr.
mute.
Arnel, you're muted.
I think you're mute.
oh, sorry, did I start with a mute from the beginning? No.
No,
You know.
just now.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so it's actually broad in scope too, because the discipline that we have right now actually calls for people to be part of a company as a programmer or developer, or can they come up with a startup company as technopreneurs. So there are a lot of roles that we play, not to mention the sexiest job alive, according to Harvard today, is a data scientist, right? And this is actually the nature of the IT discipline. But more than that, we see that IT is also global in nature. In fact, because of this nature, IT has global standards. And we refer to ABET as one of those standards that actually seeks to integrate the requirements of the world with respect to IT. What we found out in our 5 days here in the university, looking at some evidences, as well as reading through your SAR, is that to some degree, the BIT program has addressed these trends and has developed and provided a well-received program. In fact, that's actually the reason why they are preferred. The graduates are the preferred hirees of companies and your industry partners, and your students also prefer to study in this program. However, the challenge upon us will always be this. How do we ensure that we future-proof this program, considering these trends and the nature of the discipline? To add to that, we also recognize that there is an ongoing reconciliation, attempt, and transformation being done in the university level and in the faculty level. This includes making sure that our vision, mission, values, and philosophies are aligned and alive. I guess those are two important things. They're not just aligned constructively, but they are also alive, which means that the goals and targets actually embody them and makes them move forward. This alignment provides us with constant pressure to always improve and to grow. And that's the reason why we looked at the program from an QA perspective. Quality assurance provides us that mechanism and insight to always ensure that while the program right now perhaps has delivered so much, output-wise, input-wise, resource-wise, there's still a lot of things that we need to improve on because, number one, the discipline is changing and it's changing fast. And number two, there are constant demand internally and pressures. That's the reason why we always believe that quality assurance is a never-ending journey. It's a journey of continuously improving and growing. Overall, that's what we see about the BIT program. And of course, my partner here, Amphawan, will actually share with you some details as we go through the QA review that we have done in the 3 areas that she will share. Amphawan?
Okay, thank you. Yes. Okay. For the strength of the program criteria, we found that the 38 program learning outcomes or PLOs are based on not only the Vietnam's National Qualifications Framework and the Ministry of Education and Training, but also the vision and mission of the HCMUE and FIT. And also we found that survey of alumni and employers who are key external stakeholders legally perform in seeking the requirements of graduate of the program. And both program and course specifications are documented, communicated, and made available to stakeholders, including students. And we found that the curriculum is logically structured and sequenced. Course with general and fundamental knowledge are offered in the earlier semester, and course with specialized knowledge toward later semester, and graduation thesis or graduation essay and internship course toward in the end. So next. And we also found that several teaching and learning activities, including group assignments, internship 1, internship 2, graduate essay, and graduate thesis, enhance lifelong learning skill of the student. And we also found that various methods of formative and summative assessment are practiced in the program. So for the areas for improvement on the program criteria, we found that, and we recommend that the achievement of the PLOs be monitored and measured so that the outcomes of the program at course level, program levels can be tracked. In addition, improvement of the BIT program can be also made. And we recommend that in reviewing and revising the program learning outcomes PLO and course learning outcomes CLO, the faculty of IT or FIT should consider that making them specific, measurable, observable, so the faculty can assess if they are achieved. In addition, FIT should consider highlighting the uniqueness of the BIT program, not only the country, but also the region, and using the appropriate taxonomy. And the program should ensuring constructive alignment with teaching and learning activities and assessment methods. Okay. So for the next year, the next one, we found that the FIT could consider developing like a revision tracking system for the curricular change in the SAR, and some evidence we found that some documents data are inconsistent. So the update of the program and course specification can be improved and ensure consistency across various mediums. So both course specification, program specifications, as well as the program specification that published on the website. And from based on the interview session, the interviewee suggests that the faculty FIT should consider preparing for the new normal, such as post the COVID-19 pandemic, using the hybrid course delivery mode, such as sometimes we call blend modes, offline and online together, and emphasize on active learning as the dominant pedagogy, regardless whether the teaching and learning activities take place on online or in person or face-to-face. So not only employers, but also alumni who we interview were insisting that the student should have research skill, as this will be more important in the future especially in the ICT industry. Right now, as we know, the program provides 3 options for students: graduate thesis, graduation thesis, graduation essay, and 2 alternative courses. Maybe to respond or to be better for students. So it will be better if the program can be provide or student experience the research. And in that addition, the recommend from the interview session, the interviewee suggests that the faculty improve English communication skill of the graduates. Yeah. So for resource criteria section, we found that the strengths of the program are that both academic and support staff are recruited according not only established university procedure, but also government regulations. And admission policies, regulations, and criteria are aligned with establishment regulations, as well as guidelines promulgated by the MOET. In addition, we found that there is an increase in the number of applicants in the last 5 years, and it is double from about 1,100 in academic year 2019 to 20 to more than 1,000 in academic year 2020 to 21. So this means that the last academic year, the program was selective, accepting only 13% of applicants. And also we found that the FIT follows a 2-year review cycle for its curriculum, input from various stakeholders, both internal stakeholders and external stakeholders such as students, alumni, employers, and industrial partners are considered for improving and developing the curriculum. Yes. And we also found that the flexible classroom, the computer laboratories, and other teaching and learning facility and equipment are adequate for the needs for the BIT students. From interviews and student survey, we found that the students are generally satisfied with the facility and infrastructure at both faculty level and university level. For areas for improvement for resources criteria, we suggest that the staff full-time equivalent or FTE, as well as staff to student ratios for BIT should be calculated at the program level and not at the faculty level, because the faculty FIT offer 3 programs, 2 undergraduate programs and 1 master program. So maybe that the academic staff not teach only BIT program, so they teach and assign to do the research in the master for the master student program too. So this why the FTE and student to ratio should be calculated at the program level. So if the faculty have this data, so the faculty can use this for planning in the future for the direction of the faculty. So another things we found that we suggest that online teaching, training, and capacity of staff be enhanced. As I said previous, the interviewee prefer to learn in like hybrid mode. So the capacity of the academic staff for support online class will be increased too. So the library resource, including ebook collections as well as Wi-Fi connection, may be improved to support both education and research. And one more thing that we suggest that academic staff or international journal publications can be increased, and some strategy to consider are more collaboration with potential ITC industrial partners as well as academic partners or establishment of the research centers. So The last but not least for areas for improvements for resources criteria is that a systematic review of constructive alignment of expect learning outcomes at program level, course level, and lesson level. Teaching and learning activities and assets be included in the curriculum design. Moreover, the development process can be implemented. So for the strength, for the result criteria or output, we found that program output data such as dropout rate, completion rate, and duration, as well as stakeholder satisfaction rating are collected. And based on the interview session, employers are really satisfied with the quality of the graduate of the BIT program. And from the interviews session, as well as from the SAR and the evidence, we found that student research activities are highly encouraged and recorded. For areas for improvement for result criterion, it is recommended that the program implement a more systematic system for monitoring output data, such as pass rates, dropout rates, on-time graduation, as well as employability of students of each major, since the BIT program consists of 3 majors. So it will be better if we break down the data from program level to major level. So this data should be analyzed and used for curriculum planning. So the last but not least, for the areas for improvements for result criteria, the program may consider benchmarking the BIT program with similar programs in the regions to reflect the competitiveness of the BIT program, as well as to identify the best practice. So, thank you. And I would like to say thank you very much for SAR team of the BIT, as well as the interpreter, to give us more detail, more and good conversation. Yes.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Anelone Simo-Owi and Associate Professor Dr. Amphawan Shusiriwala for your very constructive comments about the BIT program. Let us go on to the last program today, which is the Bachelor of Arts in English Language. I would like to introduce Professor Dr. Riza Atik Abdullah bin Oke Rama and Associate Professor Dr. Roberto Bruno Gozzoli.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, just a second, and I'm sharing my screen. Okay, share. Screen share, sorry, a bit longer than usual. Share screen. Okay. Okay, here we are. Okay, all right. Share. I hope, can you see? Sorry, just
Yes.
okay, thank you very much. Okay, sorry, I have a double screen. So first of all, okay, we thank you, the Bachelor of Art English Study faculty and SAR team for showing us as well as answering their question. I will actually, Professor Riza and myself, Roberto, will go through the program's strength area of improvement, and I will start there first, dealing with the program. Then Professor Riza will continue with the other parts. So anyway, so moving on, okay, so this is photos that have been taken during the different sessions. Okay, we go here talking about the program. So what are the strengths of the program? We know that the PLOs, we have been told then also, and they follow MOT, a universal regulation. We understand there is actually a template that is being used in order to create PLOs as well as relative sub-PLOs. We see very well that the program covers both generic and specific outcomes. as well as all the different subjects cover general, fundamental, and specialized knowledge. This aspect is very important because at least many of the graduates they're not simply translating, but they have also specific translation tasks, passing from medical, IT, and so forth. For the program itself, stakeholders' input from students, alumni, and employers is actually considered. So anyway, the CR team explained to us very well that all the steps that have been taken in order to create the 2020 curriculum that we are actually evaluating. Also, as other my colleagues, assessors, student learning is actually assessed, of course, following university regulation. There is a marking scheme, in this case, rubrics, and the timely grading, as Professor Fausa said before, and we confirm also for our case, all the final results, they are available to students within 2 weeks from the actual final exam. Also, there is a students' appeal system in place. So anyway, these are, again, the strength of the program. Passing to the next slide, anyway, what are the areas of improvements? English studies is open to the world because English is a common language, the language we speak all together in order to understand each other. So again, what we point out is, first of all, a systematic approach to university benchmarking, a alignment of the curriculum to national and international trends. By international can be Asian region, but I would like even to say more than that, because as Professor Riza will show you later, many of your students, they go US, they go over the border. So again, follow international trends in order to develop your curriculum. Also thinking that technological disruption, so more and more machine learning, AI, and other sector or other specialized knowledge may impact the simple interpretation and translation study. So again, you need also to think about more flexibility for the job market today and tomorrow. We said about the PLO and sub-PLOs before that they are present. Our suggestion is a reduction of PLO and especially sub-PLOs. This is very important in order for checking if those PLO are actually achieved. Also taking into consideration the fact that you have final graduation paper, alternative to graduation paper, a final internship to be considered. So again, as final as the summative assessment of all the 4 years, so that you should be able to see at the final stage that many of these PLOs or sub-PLOs you consider, they're actually achieved by them. I said before about marking schemes. I will suggest the use of effective, measurable rubrics throughout all the subjects in order to ensure that, of course, the various CLOs are actually achieved, as well as to strengthen validity, reliability, as well as fairness of students' grading. So these, again, are strength and area of improvement for the program. I now pass the microphone to Professor Riza to continue with the resources and output.
Next, please. Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Roberto, Mr. President, Vice President, all deans, all participants. Allow me to continue the presentation. First, about the resources, the strength. First, the selection criteria for academic staff include certificate of pedagogical competence, certificate of computer skills, and a certificate of foreign language proficiency. And second, training and development of support staff are developed based on university strategy, department development plan, and individual needs. And besides annual survey, the university conduct annual roundtable discussion with stakeholders to get feedback and recommendation. This is really very good because now the world is changing very fast. So every year you have a session with the stakeholders so you can get input from them, the latest development in the world. Next, please. For area improvement, first, consider developing a comprehensive talent management system to ensure growth and expansion of the program, because we can see that your staff is mostly still very young, so they need special training to expand their capacity. And second, the program is recommended to improve competences of academic staff in scholarship of teaching, learning, and writing journal papers. Because when we check Google Scholar, the journal papers is not that good, and research grants are quite difficult to get because you are not research university. So scholarship of teaching, learning is the easiest way to conduct action research in the classroom, and then write it as journal papers. And then the third one, the program is recommended to give more emphasis on constructivism in the curriculum by giving more project-based, problem-based, peer learning or pedagogy, cyber learning or cybergogy to prepare students in the future of fast-changing world. Actually, the constructivism is the underlying theory behind the outcome-based education, where we let our students to construct their own knowledge, to construct their own skills. Our job actually to align them, to align the activity toward the program learning outcome. And the fourth one, soft skills such as leadership, communication, and social skills are very important for the student to face the future. The program is recommended to give more emphasis on these skills and develop authentic soft skill assessment. Next, please. Okay, the result. So the strength is the average graduation time for the program is 4.14 years, which is very good. And the second one, average employability is almost 100% within 12 months. Actually, these two strengths are clouding your view, clouding the student views, clouding the alumni views to see to the future. Because you are complacent with the thing, because they can job, the student can get job quite easily, and they can get starting salary quite good, very good in fact, compared to other kind of job. So this one actually blind them or to see the future, which is volatile, uncertain, and full of innovative, disruptive innovation. And the third one, the university provide financial and operational assistance for student research project. Okay, next please. An area of improvement, consider benchmarking with similar program into I think Dr. Roberto mentioned this just now. Actually, you don't have to go far, because in this area region, in the ASEAN country, we have universities in English as English program, which is very high in the world ranking. And then consider having big research project with spatial theme and slice it into several small projects to be given to the student. This measure will improve the quality of research, and output could be published in reputable journal. Actually, the alumni and the employer recommend that research is very important for the future, because computer cannot do research, but computer can take over translation, can take over interpretation, but research, the computer can take over from human being. So the research is very important. So please make it compulsory for all students, the final student, to do research, quality research, and can be published in the reputable journal. And the third one, the program is recommended to make wall of fame where photographs of famous successful alumni are displayed to inspire existing students. Actually, the student and the alumni, they just mentioned about interpreter, translator, nothing else, you know. But next, please, next, please, next, please. When you look this prominent alumni, none of them working as interpreter or translator. They work as a director of corporate communication of a multinational company in Vietnam. They are prominent researcher, not only in Vietnam, but also in the world. They are, one of them become the vice president of a university at very young age, only 34 years old, become TV anchor, become social activists, become company owners, become CEO of their own company. But I would like to attract your attention to the last one, to the bottom one, at the right-hand side. That lady, she opened up company. Nothing is not about translation. It's not about interpretation, but AI, company based on artificial intelligence, big data, data science. So actually, the alumni, the graduates, actually very versatile. They can communicate very well. They are very confident. Actually, it can be anything. You just inspire them. So with that, thank you very much for your kind hospitality. We feel that we are at home, although we are at home, really at home, but we feel the friendly environment while we are with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Riza and Dr. Ghazali, for the very inspiring presentation. We believe we can use a lot of suggestions that you have given to develop our programs further. And next, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Anel Onetsimo-Oui, Chief Assessor of AUN-QA, to give a drop-up presentation of the results of all the 4 assessed programs today.
So we now come to an end. Every good thing normally has an end, but the end normally is a beginning of a next journey. So this morning, allow me to wrap up what you have heard so far. I know that we can get lost with all the details out there, but details are important in order for us to understand that what we do matters, right? So in our wrap up, I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. One, it's just so coincidental and providential that in this day of a pandemic, we are asked to review 4 programs in the undergrad that has something to do with what makes us human. And that's about language and communication. All 4 programs that we reviewed talks about how we can communicate and connect with one another. And I guess that actually ties up the entire focus of the different considerations that we have for all the 4 programs. So by way of wrapping up, allow me to go big picture and allow us to move us together forward. Here you see a picture of the vision, mission, and the goal of HCMUE. We quote, and I'd like to highlight this. HCMUE is a public university with a vision. And I'm just quoting here what we see published in your website, in your SAR, to become one of the, I wanted to highlight this because this is who you are. And we see this, a key teacher training university. Not research alone, but research is important as teachers, right? But I guess that's actually who you are and who you want to be. A key teacher training university, which is highly prestigious. Now, I like that word prestigious because today I just like to talk to you about one important concept that ties up everything.
And I'll show that to you a little later, right? Now, prestigious not only in Vietnam, but you said you want to be known also in at least Southeast Asia. What we see in your program already partly addresses this because you have goals, you have plans, and you have certain targets are in place. However, Dr. Fausa already showed you this, and I'd like to emphasize this. The world tomorrow and beyond is VUCA. It's actually very volatile, uncertain, complex, and even ambiguous. However, there's an antidote to that. And the antidote is what we are presenting here. That's why we started with your vision. We started understanding your particular quests and also clarity on what you do, so that we will actually hopefully help each other in our quest for agility so that we can navigate all of this. I'd like to show you that the VUCA world is real because this is actually the map of the world. I've shown this a long time when I met Parag Khanna in Singapore and we had conversations about this. I saw that the world and the map is not as we have seen it in what Britannica Encyclopedia we used to do. The world that we see right now is all connected. It's global. It's one world. And this particular picture here shows you the internet connection across the world 6 years ago before the pandemic. And I think during the pandemic, we were able to connect more because we have this infrastructure and the map of the world that is connected. But we have to realize also that today we are here. This is one of the things that we need to understand. The world of the future, the world of work, our students will be part of, will be faced with a lot of disruptive changes and challenges. The pandemic is one good example. Industry 4.0 started it out, but the pandemic put an exclamation point to the world that we now see as different 3 years ago. And that's the reason why we need to navigate this perfect storm that we have. So let me just break it down into two small words. I guess the world of tomorrow, for us to become prestigious, key teaching university in the future, will actually depend on how we view this and how we manage the new normal that we face. In our recommendations earlier, we highlighted that the new normal requires a new perspective to our role as a teaching university. Not anymore the classroom in-person type, because we now experience and we cannot go back anymore and deny that online session, digital classes is already upon us. In fact, the new normal will just look at the next 2 years after the pandemic. But beyond that is even more strategic. McKinsey calls it the next normal, right? So this is where we see and situate our review of the programs that you have made, both from the disciplinary level of language and also from the perspective of the university meeting, pursuing your vision and mission. Now, allow me to digress a little too, because if you take a look at the new and the next normal, there are different pathways and different choices that we make. One, we can remain as is and be fragile, right? Nassim Taleb, in his book in 2012, shows us that there are 3 possibilities that we can choose during this uncertain, disrupted times. One, as is, fragile. Second, maybe in the new normal, we become resilient. We get back on our feet. We resume what we are doing. But I think what is important here is Taleb points to a third, a more strategic perspective. And that is what he says as the perspective of being anti-fragile. Building the capacity in ourselves to become, I call it BBB, better versions of ourselves, right? Better versions of ourselves. And this is the reason why we become anti-fragile. As HCMUE navigates this, becoming anti-fragile will mean different things. One, anti-fragile in your curriculum. How do you future map it, future-proof it? In your academic staff, in your support staff competency, how do we become relevant? How do we now engage students in this Zoom meeting without face-to-face? Now, these are some examples that we see. Facility-wise, you already started building new facilities. We like your new library. We hope that we could have visited it, but maybe next time. But we see that you have already started certain things moving forward. But I think the quest is not going to be just easy and not just for today and tomorrow. That's why it's more strategic. And I began there. How would you do this? One roadmap that we are presenting, and that's why we are happy that you partnered with us in AUN-QA, is to ensure that our program, what we offer our society, remains tip-top, remains excellent, remains relevant, and remains meaningful. And that is through making sure that it is of quality. And when we define quality, we're happy that your university already embarked on a journey towards OBE starting 2016. But OBE is actually something that's not going to end tomorrow because you already have a PLO. In fact, OBE is a continuous process of alignment because you're moving. Moving parts needs to be aligned, checked regularly. So that's where the constructive alignment of all the components of your program needs to be addressed. And that's a part of your quality assurance. Now, alignment also means that you need to enhance this, continue to provide what we call an environment. Later on, I'll call it an ecosystem, an environment that is conducive to learning because you're a teaching university, and so far also research because we need to be creative in the process of growth, right? This is the reason why your students choose you. In our program, at least in IT, we see doubling of applications. Maybe because we're into the pandemic and they realize IT, but I think this is also growing because you already have one key ingredient to make it happen. In fact, some of your graduates are already received. Some of them have jobs even before they graduate. And we see that internship in some areas have provided them that opportunity. And we see that you already have stakeholders that are satisfied in the process, right? But this is a quest. That's why your resources, what you can control, the inputs, needs to constantly be reviewed, adjusted, and aligned. And that's actually where we begin our journey. And this is your second AUN-QA assessment. You are now taking bolder steps forward, but the steps forward are still going to be challenging. So let me summarize and focus what we have found out in just one word. I want to talk to you about your reputation, because that's actually what seems to be common to all the programs that we have visited, reviewed, and interviewed. Your university has a very good reputation as being a good university from the students and even their families' perspective, and also from the employers and the other stakeholders and partners that you have. In fact, words that we always see are "we are preferred" and "this is our choice." And we see that, and that's very, very good. Your programs are well received. And that's the reason why we say that that is your strength. Because of these reputations are supposed to also be backed up by your ELOs in the quest for QA. We see that in all your programs. There's things that we can improve because that's a cycle, but we have considered and you have heard comments and feedback from your stakeholders. Likewise, you have a process in place that is institutionalized to review, evaluate, and improve your program. And that's the reason why your reputation is a result of that. But because it's a result does not mean that it is the end. Because the challenge is, how do we sustain and even improve that reputation? And that's the reason why we could suggest certain things in terms of delivery of your learning outcomes, even formulation at the beginning, taking a look at future-proofing your curriculum, what are the learning activities, both co-curricular, extracurricular, and curricular activities, your qualified academic and support staff. Number is also important because if you're going to grow, appropriate facilities, and don't forget services is important. That's why satisfaction is not just into the facility and the laboratories, but how you use it and serve that for your purpose. And at the end of the day, this is something that we need to do. Consistent output, satisfaction level, and of course, when we promise that this program can be completed in 4 years, we monitor that and we support the students so that they can graduate in 4 years' time. Likewise, when we say that this particular program will actually allow us to achieve these outcomes, we also monitor that. We measure that so that at the end, we can say that our graduates have already imbibed the outcomes that we have designed, and they were able to graduate on time, and they were able to get at least a job or work and apply what they have learned. And that actually becomes prestigious for us. Now, be specific on how to do this. Maybe I'll just go through this generically. This sums up most of the things that we have recommended. One, I think we should continue. I want to emphasize that word continue. Never back down. Challenges are there, but continuing sometimes is harder. Why? Because we have initial successes, small successes, small wins. We passed the AUN-QA the first time around, correct? But continue also means that we move forward and move upward. And that's the reason why I wanted to emphasize on behalf of the team, our wish that you continue. And I'd like to highlight that full-scale implementation of your OBE initiative, constructivism. So everybody understand your philosophy, even your support staff, your student, alumni, and your employer are one with you in this quest, right? So that when everybody understands, now you can begin constructive construction, alignment, and this is very real. It's not just in paper, it's not just in matrix, it's not just in table form, but alive. Because reputation is alive. That's who you are, right? And that's what we wanted to emphasize. Second, we also want you to include this because we have seen a VUCA world, we've seen a connected world, but I think what we all agree here is that you want to have your programs and curriculums to have flexibility for changing times and also agility so that you can cope with those changes as well. Instance, skill sets are changing too. The emphasis today in all of the languages that we have heard so far this morning is that learning to learn is important. And that means lifelong learning, making your students curious enough that their degree, once completed, does not end their learning journey. They're continuously learner. And that's not just for students. I hope that it transcends to your academic staff and even your support staff, because they're part of the ecosystem. And one path there is, even if you're not a research university, doing research allows you to move this skill forward. Dr. Riza emphasized that. And I think that's a cure to being small wins, go for the big win. That's your reputation. And last, it's easy to do this. Last two, it's easy to do this because you have good programs already in your university. Maybe sharing your best practices across all of these 8 programs now that was assessed might be a good starting point to enable us to see how we can improve the quality of our programs and curriculum. I like what Professor Riza highlighted, and I wanted to double back on this. The alumni, be proud. But notice the alumni are not working only. They're not employee only. That's the reason why we wanted to challenge you moving forward to create a learning environment, an ecosystem. It's not just the environment that you feel. an ecosystem that's vibrant and alive, that will support all the learning activities, all the way from the classroom, outside of the classroom, to improve the essential skill that all of us agree. And we sometimes call it soft skill. We need to measure that too, by the way. But the soft skills that we're referring to especially calls for one, communication skill. Whether that be English for IT or English for, well, English and BAL is already there. But for us to engage, maybe communication skill is important. And of course, I wanted to highlight this. Version 4.0 of the AUN-QA already placed this as one of the criteria. And I think this is something that we can reflect on moving forward. Entrepreneurial mindset or entrepreneurial skills. We see that your alumni here are not just working. Some of them have their own businesses. And startups is a starting point. Growing it is the other challenge. So I think that's one of the soft skills that we might want to incorporate and consider in our program. Why? Interpreter, are they hired or are they a consultant? IT professionals, programmer, can they work? Yes, but they can also do their own and start their own company. Steve Jobs started in a garage. And that's actually the reason why we think that your program as a teaching university should create that ecosystem moving forward. Right? And that's the reason why I'd like to share the Olympic motto of the just concluded and yet delayed Olympics, right? In the Olympics, I wanted to share this because I wanted us to understand that the journey ahead is not easy, but there is a way for us to make that big win. And that the Olympic motto shows us. To become faster, higher, and stronger used to be the motto. But the pandemic in 2020 that resulted in the delay of the Olympics added a fourth. And that is together. Our quality improvement, quality enhancement is a journey. Challenges we all face sometimes are common. And that's why in the AUN-QA network, we want to do this together. And that's the reason why we're here. That's also the reason why the AUN-QA continues to provide this kind of dialogue, conversation among ASEAN universities, because we can become better, the last one that is ER here, together. So on behalf of Team 269, all my co-assessors, we'd like to thank you, Kam Anban, for your hospitality, for sharing with us everything that we have experienced. Even if we don't have to party with you, but at least we're able to share certain things moving forward. And I'd like to end with Plato on behalf of the team, because excellence is always the key word for quality. Excellence is not a gift, but a skill that takes practice. We do not act rightly because we are excellent. We, in fact, achieve excellence by acting. With that, I'd like to wrap up our 269th assessment at the program level for HCMUE's 4 programs. Come on, Ban.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Adnel HCMUE, for the drop-up presentation of the 4 programs. And thank you for the valuable information that you share with us. And now, with great honor, I would like to call upon Professor Dr. Fawza Abdul Ghaffar, representative of AUN-QA Assessor Team, to give a closing remark.
Thank you again. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can
Yes,
hear.
loud and clear.
Okay. Thank you again, Madam Chair. Now we come to the end of the session. Professor Dr. Nguyen Ngoc Trung, President of Ho Chi Minh City University of Education, Vice Presidents, Dean and Vice Deans, Heads of Department, my fellow AUN assessors, the local verifier, and the AUN-QA Secretariat, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning or afternoon. Okay, very good morning to everyone. We have come to the end of the session. We have come to the end of the assessment 269 at the Ho Chi Minh City University of Education, which involved the 4 programs of the university. Over the last 4.5 days, we have seen a lot of dimension, a lot of development in each of the 4 programs that we assess. It has been a wonderful journey, and this journey would not have been possible without your full cooperation and your involvement at all levels of the university. Therefore, once again, I would like to thank everyone. AUN-QA believes in the continuous improvement of the quality of higher education in the ASEAN region. And we see that this belief exists in this university and in fact in all other AUN member universities. Ladies and gentlemen, quality is a journey, is a never-ending journey. So let's make this journey of assessment and take it to the other level, to the journey of improvement. Therefore, we hope that our recommendations would be the basis for future actions for improvement at both the program level and for some of the criteria, it might be at the university level. Another quote on quality. Quality is everybody's business or everybody's responsibility. Therefore, we do really hope that the 4 programs would share your experience of this assessment with the other colleagues in the department, at the faculty, and even across the university, so that other people can learn from you. Quality is everybody's business. It's not just the business or the responsibility of the top management, of the faculty management, of the SAR team, of the quality assurance unit, but it is also the business or the responsibility for each and every one of the staff of the university, and also the students as well as other stakeholders involved in the program. Once again, I would like to thank all of you for taking or walking this journey with us, and we look forward to future journeys in the university in other assessment. Let me end with yet another quote. Quality is not just an action, it is a habit. So let us all make quality a habit in whatever we do in our core business, so that we, the institution, the program, shall achieve a quality ecosystem and a quality culture. And with a quality culture in place, the university or the program cannot go wrong. We shall stay in business in the VUCA world or in with whatever disruptive changes that occurs. So once again, lastly, I would like to say thank you, and thank you. And all the best to everybody. Thank you.
Very much, Professor Dr. Falza Abdul Ghaffar. Now I would like to invite Mr. Nguyen Ngoc Trung, Vice President of Ho Chi Minh City University of Education, to deliver a closing remark.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Dear Dr. Chotis, dear Rahiti, Executive Director, the ASEAN University Network, and other assessors of 4 training programs, dear Ho Chi Minh City University of Education staffs, the distinguished guests. We are now at the end of the 5-day online program assessment at our university delivered by AUN-QA assessors. First and foremost, on behalf of the university, I would like to show my warm heart thanks to the assessors and the secretariat of AUN-QA for your support and assessment of the 4 programs at our university. Please join me to show our appreciation to the Chief Assessor, Associate Professor Gerardo Lagoza, and other assessors. For Bachelor of French Language, Professor Dr. Foza Abgrafa, Professor Dr. Melin Tadosia Soares. For Bachelor of Chinese Language, Assistant Professor Dr. Onlacha Sivarak, Dr. Yeti Kumalasari. For Bachelor of Information Technology, Professor Dr. Anel HCMUE, Associate Professor Dr. Afawan Chuseriwong. For Bachelor of Art in English Language, Professor Dato Ayah Dr. Riza Atit Abdullah bin OK Ramat, Assistant Professor Dr. Roberto Runo Gozoli, and Local Verifier Dr. Nguyễn Thị Huyền and Dr. Nguyễn Thanh Phúc, and the Secretariat, Mr. Wanted Natipiman, Ms. Banjang Yuyin. We would like to express our respect and gratitude for what all the assessor and the secretariat have done for almost 1 year, and especially during the past 5 days. Thank you for joining our quality assurance journey and make it brighter. We have learned a lot from your professionalism and invaluable remarks, which we strongly believe will add value to what we have done and will continue to do in the future for development of all the training program in our university. Please give them a big hand again. Dear the CQO, personnel in charge, the SAS team, the Zoom team, and the staff from related offices and belonged units, let me take this opportunity to recall the challenges we at University of Education managed to overcome when preparing our AUN-QA assessment. The time pressure we handle, the workload we shoulder, the problem we encounter during the test run section, the obstacle we faced during the COVID-19 pandemic. Despite all these, we now reach the conclusion of the assessment procedure. I would like to thank all the staff of Ho Chi Minh City University of Education for your commitment to the quality culture of our university. I believe we all truly value the connection, energy, and devotion that we together have put into the journey towards the common goal of improving of our training program. Ladies and gentlemen, Henry David Thoreau said, "What you get by achieving your goals is not as important as what you believe by achieving your goals." All of us know that this closing ceremony marks not the end, but the beginning of another journey in which we continually strive to be better. Better training programs, better learning and teaching environments, and better support and communication with all our stakeholders. It's my strong belief that we will enjoy the new journey if we are together. Deep down in my heart, on behalf of our President Board, I would like to say thank you. May I wish you all health and success. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nguyen Ngoc Trung, Vice President of the University. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to mark the events of AUN-QA assessments for the 4 assess programs of our university, I would like to invite all of you, the assessor team, secretariat of the AUN-QA, local verifiers, leaders, lecturers, administrators of all the units and offices in the university to take a few group photos together. So it's photo session. So I will count, right? From 1 to 3. 1, 2, 3, cheese. Okay. Have you taken beautiful photos of the home group? Yes? Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, our event has come to a conclusion. Once again, we would like to take this opportunity to express our sincere gratitude to all the assessors, delegates, distinguished guests, and lecturers for attending the closing ceremony with us for the AUN-QA 269th assessment of the online programs. We wish you good health and great success. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
For the session today. So we'll meet for the assessors and local verifiers. Please go back to the assessor room just for a short internal meeting.
Okay. Okay.
After
Thank
the
you.
session. So thank you very much for
Thank you.
throughout this assessment process. Thank you.
Thank you.
For the university personnel, I will be sending the
Recording stopped.
to the WhatsApp for the improvement of the QA process of Secretariat. So we highly appreciate your feedback on this as well. Thank you very much. Please feel free to leave the meeting as is the end of the session already. Thank you.